Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and this weekend has been rather busy with some Dwarf data mining. A lot of it has already made it to the public and it's really interesting that some stuff is being overlooked. Like there are some posts but very little. Though with that being said, Xenon from the SFO team once again has reached out and there's been some interesting information. So we're going to talk about everything, the clips that have already made it to the public, which I've got in hand also. But before that, there's a few other things too, which could be very interesting. Just a little disclaimer before we actually begin, however, and this is mainly because anything that we do see from the data mine sessions and going into the game files and all that, just because it's there doesn't mean that we'll actually see it in game. It's very likely that they could have changed around plans and so on, or at least I'm hoping for that because there's a few things that do have a little bit of a concern for me. So we're going to start off with the first data mining stuff, and this is probably going to bring a lot of speculation to people. You see, we have a DLC number for the Chaos Dwarves, DLC 13. You can see above that the Norskins were DLC 8, so it's rather curious as it's likely, and this is what I'm thinking and some other creators are thinking, it's very likely that the Chaos Dwarves were originally intended for Warhammer 2, considering that the Darklands were implemented, just not playable, and they started fleshing it out as DLC started happening and so on. This is when the map expansions happened for the Mortal Empires, so it could have been that originally the Chaos Dwarves were going to be planned as the same as Norska, where we would have had access to them prior in Warhammer 2 and then eventually in Warhammer 3. It's a bit of a shame. Obviously DLC 13 means nothing now as there had been a lot of DLCs after Norska, so this wouldn't even be number 13 now. Again, this is wild speculation, however it does make sense as that was the format that Warhammer 1 to Warhammer 2 had, and they've probably since then changed their plans because, well, let's be honest, the Norska thing was a bit of a disaster. Now, this is actually quite a good thing because that means that the Chaos Dwarves are likely fully ahead if this is true, and that means that we won't have to wait too long to eventually get them. Again, very important, this is speculation regarding this, but it kinda does make sense. This seems to be reinforced by the image on screen right now, which has treasure hunts for the Chaos Dwarves. We don't have treasure hunts in Warhammer 3 at the moment. I guess it's because they were so universally hated and because the most times people had to use guides on the Steam Workshop or even mods to just get rid of them and so on. I personally never used them. I know some people who did like them though, so I'm not like bringing shade to them, but you know what I mean. So either we're getting treasure hunts back or this was something that was trying to be implemented for Warhammer 2 if the Chaos Dwarves were going to be implemented, but they weren't. Now, something of very big interest is this. This is Warcamp advice, which there is one clip floating about already, and we'll talk about the clip in a second, but there seems to be only two. So, a lot of people are thinking now that this could mean that we're getting 2 legendary lords for the Chaos Dwarves, which I really hope is not the case, because that brings a little bit of fear to me that the roster won't be complete and then they'll just do DLC for DLC, which, don't get me wrong, it's fine, but if we're going to buy a race pack, we want a full experience. It's kind of odd because we know that Cafe right below there only has 1, which is strange because we have 2 legendary lords, so who knows what this could totally mean, but Warcamp advice is generally what the advisor tells you at the very beginning of your campaign as you get your little flyover at the start. Don't get me wrong, 2 legendary lords is fine, the Darklands isn't that big, but 1 or 2 more would be nice. The Chaos Dwarves don't need 4 legendary lords, the areas are so small and they don't tend to move that much, so 3 legendary lords is fine, 2 just seems like a bit too little. Again, this is just speculation as it could mean literally anything, so we're going to have to wait and see as time progresses, because right now we are still at that point where the game's just recently launched, so I doubt we're going to get any official news regarding the Chaos Dwarves anytime soon. But with that being said, now it's time to talk about the clips. Let's play one, talk about it, and then play the other and talk about it.
Your malign kin are cold-hearted and merciless, mighty lord, bereft of pity for any so unfortunate as to cross your path. The merest word of your approach is enough to cause lesser beings to flee. All shall fall to the Dawizar.
Alright, so we have confirmation of Dawizar that we kind of expected anyway. I mean, it was even confirmed that we'd get them eventually by a member of Creative Assembly staff in one of their interviews promoting Warhammer 3, but no reference as to who this might be, where they are located, and so on. However, you know, it's just big hype anyway because, well, it's Chaos Dwarfs. They were widely popular in later editions of Warhammer Fantasy, mostly because, well, they were kind of broken, not many people could afford them. I've only started really getting into Chaos Dwarfs now, and even then, even through through resellers and so on. It's not cheap. It's a very expensive army because it was Forge World, so a lot of people admired the army, but just never used them, and they've always wanted them in Total War Warhammer because, well, you wouldn't have to pay like £1,000, £2,000, £3,000 for a proper army. Either way, this is very exciting because if they have voice files and this done, I wonder how far along they are done with the Chaos Dwarfs themselves, as, well, I really wanted them. I actually wanted them before the Ogre Kingdoms because it makes more sense given how large the Darklands are, and the Ogres, I like them, don't get me wrong, but, you know, there's always a preference when it comes to certain different races and factions. Now let's jump into the second clip, as that is the most interesting, at least to me it is.
Exercise caution, my lord, for your scouts bring word of Chaos Dwarfs nearby. The Legion of Asgore are a callous and black-hearted foe, bearing little resemblance to their untainted cousins to the west. Keep your weapons close at hand.
Okay, so this is very interesting because this is for a lord that isn't a Chaos Dwarf that directly mentions the Chaos Dwarfs. What I think is this could be a possible FLC character which will be attached to the whole Chaos Dwarf DLC. So a character from a different race just to bring in and have a maybe Game 1 or Game 2 race playable. It's clearly not a dwarf, so that's perfectly fine. I've been thinking it might be, say for example, a green skin just to bring in a character to fight against the Chaos Dwarfs too. Maybe Gorfang Rotgut. For all we know, this could easily be, say, Khalida. Maybe if she ends up being an FLC, though I imagine her being a DLC character, though for all we know this could literally be Greasus Goldtooth's Immortal Empires campaign flyover advice thing. Kinda lost my wording there because it's been a long day trying to look through the files and having some help for it, and it could be that, it could literally be anything, though it does mention that the dwarves are to the west of them and that the Chaos Dwarves are nearby, so it could be something between the dwarfs and the Chaos Dwarfs. Keep in mind that both their territories, surprisingly enough, are very, very close to each other. So in my mind, it's either an FLC character attached to the Chaos Dwarfs, because that would make sense, try and bring in a race from Game 1 or Game 2 as early as possible, or it's attached to a character already in game, which is playable in Warhammer 3, who might be very close to the Chaos Dwarfs. That would be Boris Ursus, as if you play as him, he starts in the lands of the Darklands, or it could be Greasus Goldtooth. Those are the only ones that really come to mind. It's very clear that the voice clips aren't complete. These were found by the Mamba King, who will be linked in the description below, but they are clearly not complete. The intros for Legendary Lords are generally a lot bigger, and they give a lot more context. This is only just going for some specifics, so we're gonna have to wait and see if maybe some other people can decode the whole thing. Decoding voice files for Total War Warhammer is, it's not easy. It's not easy because it's so heavily encrypted. Like a lot of people, even very talented modders, just can't be able to do it. But we're gonna have to wait, I guess. I still think that the DLC is gonna be a decent amount of time away because we do have to wait for bug fixes and so on. I don't think that they're gonna want to add in another race and add more problems. And obviously the Blood DLC isn't out yet, so usually it's Blood DLC, then something else about a month after, more or less. Either way, I'm excited, and hopefully it won't be too long until we find out some more information about the Darwizar, as I've been looking over the two army books, obviously the old edition one and then the 8th edition supplement, and there's so much cool stuff. There is so much cool stuff. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.